5533. Or you can email him, tom@trentovision.tv. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to Trentovision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trentovision is hosted by Tom Trento. Tom can be reached at 561-319-5533 or tom@trentovision.tv. Listen and watch every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN and trentovision.tv. Now, let's get a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
Hey, welcome back, Joe. Welcome back, Joe. How are you, Joe? What'd he say?
Talking to the Joe in there.
Oh, Joe in there. Wrong Joe. Wrong
We
Joe.
got two Joes.
Yeah.
Welcome back, both Joes.
Welcome back, Joe's. Here's
Joe Squared.
something for you to write on if
Great.
you want some notes.
Thank you.
Joe Squared on.
Oh, that one's right.
Oh, one of the Joes is head-settingly challenged.
Here's our program.
Our studio today is a buzz with activity, and the frog that was in my pocket on Friday traveled to my. What are you doing? Oh, yeah, I always forget that. The frog that was in my pocket on Friday traveled to my throat, and good thing we didn't have to do a show Saturday and Sunday, because it would have been like this. Be either signing or lip reading show. That may work for the video audience. I don't know how well lip reading would work for the radio.
We'd have covered for you.
We covered for you.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
We have redundancy. We have redundancy.
Well, I thought this was your Barry White impersonation
Yes,
today.
yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's really not good, but that's okay. Duff said that when he walked in. He goes, "Oh, what a sexy voice!" You go,
And Duff's a man too. So just
yeah, I want my regular voice back. But the studio is a buzz. In fact, could you buzz everybody in? Show the rest of the buzzers, rest of these people here, and what we've decided to do. Hi, it's Tom Trento, and that's Joe over there. Joe, say hello to everybody.
Howdy.
Jay-Z.
Jay from Z, yeah, Joe from ZOA. We'll tell you about him in a minute, and then our steadfast. What did Mort call? Mort, did you see Mort's drawing? Did you guys see
the
that?
irrepressible.
Irrepressible.
CJ.
Did you see it, Mike? Oh man, it's really. Look at this.
I think he could have made better hair for me, though.
Did you see that?
He can't even make me look good in a cartoon. I'm kind of mad at him.
I still look like I weigh 300 pounds, even in a cartoon.
I'm the most attractive guy on there.
Yeah, you are.
We're looking at a caricature that our favorite caricaturist. You got to show Joe over there if you could pull it up. Our favorite cartoonist, Mozart, drew. He drew our group here, and but you guys didn't get the email. Yeah, maybe you did get the email. He said, "Let's get it out on the table. When you do caricatures, nobody likes what they look like." Okay.
I know.
So, now that we start from there, I thought it was pretty good.
You look pretty good in that one.
Yeah, I got a tie on. I mean, how often do I wear a tie?
Yeah, that's a misnomer.
That's kind of.
That's why it's a caricature.
I was going to go. I think I've mentioned, and I did some academic work to go into the FBI, and for many, many years.
Is that the full-blooded Italian organization?
For many, many years, yes. I don't know if it's still true. If any FBI agents out there that can verify this, the FBI ties were clip-on ties. They were not ties that you tie around your neck.
So you could, yeah.
Strangle
So you
somebody.
can't get
with.
choked.
So if you try to choke an FBI agent from their tie, it comes off in your hand, and then they shoot you. See how it works? So, but we're on Trentovision here. We're not shooting anybody today, but we will pulverize bad ideas. And on WNN 1470 on the radio side, we have decided that the flashpoint on the globe right now we haven't decided that it's the flashpoint. We've decided to cover the flashpoint on the globe right now. There are so many nexus that intersect in this little piece of dirt 7,000 miles from here that we have adjusted our shows this week, Thanksgiving week of all weeks, to bring you some live reporting directly from Israel. And it's very late there. It's 7 hours later than the East Coast. And so we have a series of people with various levels of expertise. Some are just citizens. Most are writers, analysts, activists, and some hold dual citizenship. And then we have several folks in the U.S. that either have deep involvement in Israel, traveling back and forth, or have some sort of expertise. So we're going to be bringing people on, and by the magic of Skyping, if you are by your computer or smartphone, TrentoVision.tv. You can get it on a Droid, on an iPhone, on a computer, on a those little books. What are those books called?
Kindles.
Well, no, not Kindles.
Kindles
No,
and Nooks.
Kindles, if you have the internet, yeah.
iPads,
all those things. TrentoVision.tv, and you can listen and see these folks and added value. You can call 888-565-1470 and speak to them in Israel or California. So we're going to be bringing people in from Washington, from California, all the way out there. 10 hours of time zones today.
And don't forget iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio is the coolest thing in the world. I listen to Steve and Brian, Steve Kane and Brian Craig, in the mornings. I run some errands, 7 to 8, and then I pop on my iPhone, just hit 1470. I bring it in the house, and I'm listening there while I'm doing work. So go to iHeartRadio, download the application. Then there's a little search box. Search in South Florida for WNN. Crystal clear digital audio. It's beautiful anywhere on the face of the earth. That's the best way to listen. Or you can go to the WNN website and you can listen there. So there's a variety of ways. But we want you to call your friends and neighbors and everyone, because we're going to stay on top of this. Fox and those other folks are bringing reports, but we're going pretty deeply in. We're going to get some video shot over there, and we want to give you a feel for what life is like, and then, as everybody knows, we're just not a informational vehicle. We're an activism entity, and we're firmly convinced that this issue, Israel, particularly if they go into Gaza, will divide the United States. We started to see Mark and Mike shot some video over the weekend, right?
Yeah, well, we were actually, like you said, we were actually embedded and involved, inside these organizations, these not friendly organizations, unfriendly organizations, and we're inside, right in the belly of the beast, trying to bring you the latest and greatest information, and what we have here is pretty amazing.
But we got a breaking little piece of news right now, 3:10 in the afternoon. Dave D., are you with us?
I am. How are you, Tom?
Good. This is Dave D., everybody. We won't have to go into your last name, but you're the founder, editor of
ThePatriotsPress.com.
ThePatriotsPress.com. And you have been doing a yeoman's job following the Allen West debacle at the supervisor of elections in all three counties, actually. What's the latest information? We heard it's not too good.
Well, to be honest with you, Tom, it's not real good. What I heard and what I've seen is basically they ran the clock down yesterday. I guess the whole world knows that by now. Everything that the activists that showed up, there's so many of them. I'm not going to name any because I don't want to miss any names, but some great people. They were there. They spent time away from family, friends, doing everything they had to do. Food was coming in from all over the country from people that were following what was happening there on Twitter and Facebook, and they were there for several days. just trying to do the best they could to make sure that that vote was accurate and counted. And essentially, what ultimately happened, this is my words, the dog and pony show that they put on at the St. Lucie County Supervisor of Elections was a facade. I believe they knew all along that reading error was going to come up, and ultimately what happened, even after the court and everything else on Friday and the canvassing board saying they were going to count things, noon o'clock came yesterday afternoon, and they ran out of time, so everything that they had done all week was for naught, and they reverted back to the original certified garbage that they had, which was uncounted votes. Myself personally, I think that the Supervisor of Elections in St. Lucie County ought to be ashamed of herself. She knows she did wrong. Patrick Murphy, probably going to be seated as the next congressman up there, or the first congressman in the 18th district. He knows he didn't really win. Those votes were never counted. It's a debacle, and we the people need to really stand up and scream from the top of the mountains, this can't happen in America. But it's pretty much, I would say, I mean, it's up to the West campaign to call it, obviously, but I would say it's probably over. I don't know what else can be done. I'm sure if there's anything that can be, it will be, but that's not my call to make, but it doesn't look good at all.
From what I've heard, this is Tom speaking, Dave, that there are a couple of legal procedures left. Well, we have an attorney right here. You know anything about election law and all that?
No, I'm actually a recovering attorney.
The best kind, actually. And there's a couple of legal procedures open, but I've heard that most likely, I got a call from another person that was up there just before we got on the air that said their guess is that Alan is not going to pursue that. He's just going to let this thing rest where it is. But what we would like to do, this week we're going to be dealing with the inflamed Middle East and the Israeli situation. But after after Thanksgiving next week, Dave, if you could get the A team, you know, the folks 5, 6, 10, however many, that you think really were the driving force behind trying to get a fair and properly counted election. We'd like to do, dedicate a whole show to really analyzing what took place, how it took place, drawing some conclusions, and then figuring out as activists what needs to be done to make sure this never happens again. Would you be interested in?
Not only would I be interested, but I'd be honored and happy to be part of that. I know it's going to be hard to whittle it down to 6 people or so, but I will definitely contact the guys and the gals that were the main players, the people that were helping everybody, keeping people motivated, and just getting everybody up there. I'll be glad to do that, Tom. I think it's an important thing to do, and I think it's good. I'm glad that you're willing to do that on the show.
Yeah, we'll get a show on the record, and then because we've been approached by so many people.
We need to get somebody from the campaign
Right,
as well.
exactly.
Yep. And last night we were at an event that Joe Sabag, the director of the ZOA, Florida ZOA, that's Joe right there. Wave your hand, Joe. Here's the camera. Put together at the Boca Raton Synagogue a briefing on the Israeli situation, and people were coming up to us there saying, "You've got to help with this election mess." So
look, there's no question that as far as Israel's friends in the Congress go, the congressman was a head and shoulders. I mean, so honest, so forceful, so dedicated to these issues, really understanding of what Israel goes through, that the loss of this voice in particular is really a tragedy. Yeah, it's a tragedy as far as support for Israel goes in the Congress.
Yeah.
Before we let Dave go and bring in our first Israeli guest, anything for Dave, guys?
Hey, Dave, I hear there's a record set over there, a Guinness Book of World Records set over there in St. Lucie County, whereas a 13,000% overvote in District 93. Seven people actually registered to vote, yet 900 people actually voted. Is that true?
Yeah, with 7 registered. But, that makes sense because that happens everywhere, right?
Well, it certainly did in this election all over the country.
I don't think the audience heard it. In one of the districts, precincts
Precinct, yeah.
in Allen's district up in Port St. Lucie County. There were 7 people on the rolls registered, and you're only supposed to vote if you're registered. And somehow there were 900 votes counted. So,
I'm willing to bet that the 7 people registered weren't even the voters.
That's probably right.
They probably did.
But I mean, that kind of stuff is so bizarre. It's either completely ridiculous and somebody made it up, sort of an urban legend, or if it's factual, there's got to be some substantive error. You can't, I mean, it'd be very difficult to have 900 fake people go vote. Walking through the place voting. So it would have to be done mechanically somehow. But that's the stuff we'll try to get to.
Well, Tom, obviously somebody understands the weaknesses of the system
Right.
better than others. I'm a boxing fan. In general, they say that the boxer is almost always going to beat the brawler. The brawler may have bigger muscles and may be more motivated, but the technician, the guy who understands the game better, makes sure to land his punches and make sure that he doesn't get hit by punches. And
900 punches he's landed.
that's right. So I would just say in general, perhaps Republicans need to do a better job of understanding the nature of the game.
You got it. You got it. Okay. Hey, Dave D., we thank you for all your work. Let's work together to put that show next week, CJ. We'll put that show together.
Yeah.
We'll get somebody from the
Absolutely.
campaign, too. See if Alan can come on.
Yeah.
All right, Dave D. Everybody give Dave D. a hand.
All right, Dave. Great job, buddy.
Amazing job.
Hey, great reporting though on the thing.
Good
You got to some very
Thanks very much.
significant people.
Okay, take
God
care.
bless.
All righty. Now,
Dave.
from West Palm Beach, Florida, we'll jump on our Trento Vision G5, and we'll zoom into Tel Aviv. We'll land at Ben Gurion, and we'll go a little bit out there, and we'll meet our good friend Batsy. That's the name we'll use for our next guest. Hi, Batsy. Welcome to Trento Vision with Tom and CJ and Joe and Mark and Mike and Joe and the whole crew here.
Nice to be back with you guys.
Okay. Well,
I
that's
see you're still dwelling on the subject of the elections. We've moved a lot farther than that.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I'm sure you met Congressman Alan West.
Yes.
You just heard the concluding information that unless they have a change of heart, from everything we've heard, it's over, and it was certified yesterday. Actually, it's going to be certified tomorrow, but
Right,
it was handed in
certified by the county.
by the
but
county.
It's not been certified by the state.
Yeah, but it looks like Alan's not going to be a congressman in the 18th district in Florida. Doesn't mean he's not going to be effective.
I think a lot of people just consider him a congressman in exile.
Yeah.
He's still admired here in Israel, so that's all I can tell you. In fact, I was going to start my message today by really thanking America. Every time I see a footage of how they shoot rockets with the Iron Dome, I cannot help but be grateful to America for sponsoring it, for paying for it, because it's a lifesaver. We all know it's an Israeli invention, but I don't think we could have operated it, we could have survived without America helping us on that. And guys, we're very grateful. Thank you.
Well, we will accept your thanks. I think that was initiated in the Bush
I was
administration.
gonna say we need to thank George W. Bush
Yeah.
for that.
And Congress
Wow.
approved that and approved the money, and our current president takes all the credit for it. But regardless, now have you seen one of them or heard one of the batteries, the Iron Dome batteries, in operation?
Well, we do hear, when they explode the rockets, we do hear it occasionally. You know where I'm located. I don't want to disclose my location, but I'll say that I'm not far from Tel Aviv, and Tel Aviv has been targeted. And I must admit, or let everybody know, it was a failure every single time. The first couple of times before the Iron Dome was deployed was just a failure, and the other times they were able to intercept it in mid-air. So every time they did intercept it, we could hear the boom all the way here. And the siren went off not far from here as well, and that was pretty scary. but we managed to survive. I still maintain a smile on my face, and I go to work, and we try to keep, at least in this part of the country, as normal life as possible. We host a lot of people from the South. I'm a teacher, so my students, the students from my school, invited a lot of students from the South to come and spend time here, and they did. The children mostly responded, but the adults are just adamant about staying down there. And I'll tell you something, I don't understand how people could be so dedicated, I envy them. I basically call them our bulletproof vest, because if not for them, the rockets would have been here a long time ago.
Hey, Batsy, we got a question for you.
Sure.
What was the reaction of the Israeli citizens and the Israeli populace and people in Tel Aviv when it came to the rockets actually being fired at Jerusalem and at Tel Aviv? Was that a wake-up call, or versus just firing from Gaza over to Sderot and other places like that?
It raised a lot of cynicism, or rather, question marks. If Jerusalem is so important to them, if they're fighting so hard on making Jerusalem their capital and saying that it's a holy city for them, how come they target it? Others interpret it as maybe just a desperate attempt to just shoot wherever they can. And I personally hope that one of those rockets, if it ever gets shot again to Jerusalem, which I hope it's not, but if it does, lands right on Al-Aqsa.
Yeah.
So that would solve a lot of problems.
It raises another.
Well, Joe, I don't know if you ever met Batsy, Joe Sabag, the director of the Florida state of the ZOA, Zionist Organization of America, the Florida chapter. Have you met him when you were down here?
I probably did. He probably knows my daughter because she worked a lot with the ADL and the Federation. So I can talk to you about it later, Joe, and give you my daughter's name, so maybe it will ring a bell.
Sure.
But I don't believe we've met, although I've attended one of your functions when I was there. So next time, there's always next time.
And now is as good a time as any.
So you had a question, Joe?
No, I was just going to make the point about rockets making their way to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. I mean, the range of these rockets is unprecedented, and we understand that this additional range that Hamas now has in its arsenal has been provided to it by Iran. And so as Israel needs to weigh its options right now, whether or not to take invasive action into Gaza, I think one of the big considerations is, this time it's rockets that can reach Jerusalem. If we don't go in there and dismantle the terror units, what's next time going to be like? What type of additional capacity, weapon capacity, is Iran going to provide them with? If Hamas is allowed to rearm itself and to regroup and to live to fight another day, could the next conflict involve weapons of mass destruction? Something that has significantly more ability to harm Israel. And so I think that's really a very significant part of the equation, as Israel needs to, sort through what its options are at this point.
And I really think it's being taken into the equation because, as you noticed, Israel is being very tough. Israel pretty much has dictated the terms of this next ceasefire, if there is going to be a ceasefire. We will not settle for anything that would just give them an opportunity to regroup and reinforce themselves and strengthen themselves. I'm having constant arguments with people because they're all complaining that Gaza is a refugee camp, and my argument is, for goodness sake, they get so much money. Qatar just poured in $500 million. The UN gives them money. Arab countries give them money. They could have turned that country or that place, whatever you would call Gaza, into a thriving economy. They could have turned it into a place that could promise a future to their children. But they just chose not to. And at this stage, I will not believe them, even if they put a signed agreement that says that, that they will not shoot another rocket for the next 15 years. I just don't believe them. They have turned any penny or any dollar that was given to them into an industry of hatred. They've literally invested in hatred and hatred and hatred. And I always give this example. I read an article, and I keep quoting it. In 2008, the Spiegel, the German Der Spiegel, did an interview of a rocket maker in Gaza. He works during the day. At night, he makes rockets, and he takes him through the rocket factory. And all of a sudden, you see bags of fertilizers in, with Hebrew on them. And the terrorist said those bags come from Israel, but for goodness sake, they're fertilizers. They were brought there so that they could teach people how to feed themselves for life and not just for a day. And they are just literally taking any opportunity to build a future and turning it into hatred. And that's why I think it's so ingrained in them that Israel is much more clever this time. I think the pressure is being put on Prime Minister Netanyahu and on the government, on the famous nine that meets regularly to evaluate the situation. The pressure is put on them to try and put an end to it, but an end for good, not just temporary one. So I think we're much more clever this time, albeit a bit too late, I'm afraid.
Batsy, referring to earlier when you said you didn't understand why they were targeting Jerusalem because that's why they want their capital, I think that the point that people forget about all of this is that the motivation for what the Hamas is doing, for what Hezbollah is all about, for what Morsi is about in Egypt, for what they are about in Iran, is not to create a life for themselves any place on earth. This is a jihad, and the purpose of this is to kill as many Jews as possible wherever they happen to be in the world. And frankly, they do not care how many Muslims have to die in the cause of that, because they have no value for anybody else's life, including their own. If they did, we would not be in this state of war that we are perpetually in. And I think people really lose sight of that underlying premise.
It's interesting that you say that, because there is a very famous sheikh in the city of Hebron called Sheikh Jabri, not related to Jabri in Gaza, or not that I know of. And he's the leader of a tribe, a very major tribe in Hebron, and he supports Israel, and not because he's a Zionist. He supports Israel because he says there will never be peace, because in order for there to be peace, and that's a problem when religion becomes an ideology as well. In order for there to be peace, the Arabs will have to give up land. And according to the Quran, any piece of land any Muslim ever set foot on it has become holy land. And as soon as it becomes a holy land, you're not allowed to give it up. So as you say, it's, their goal is to really reclaim every bit of land, be it here in the Middle East or in Europe or anywhere that a Muslim soldier has ever set foot on. And that's why I've said it in the past, and I'll say it again. The world needs to support Israel at this stage, because we are the barrier that stops them from achieving that goal. And we are really the front line right now. So we really need everybody to continue to back us up right now. And I turn to America, our ally and best friend. And so far, it seems as though the rest of the world does understand that reality better than they understood it in, let's say, in 2008 when we had Operation Cast Lead. And that's what really makes Israel's task easier, I believe.
Yeah, Batsy, this is Tom again. That point is so critical. I want to camp on it for a minute. But first, I got to tell everybody it's 4:30 here on the East Coast in Florida. 3:30. 3:31 actually on TrentoVision.tv. And on the radio side, it's WNN 1470. We are simulcasting, and we're doing our shows this week on the tension in the Middle East, the war in the Middle East right now. We have a state of war going on with the nation of Israel against Gaza, against the Hamas primarily. And it's so critically important from a global and from an American national security perspective that we're going to bring you our 3 hours every day, people in Israel, in the United States, experts, civilians. We have Batsy on. She has dual citizenship, U.S. and Israeli. She's in the Tel Aviv area, and we're listening to what life is like. And if you'd like to speak with Batsy, feel free to give us a call, 888-565-1470, 888-565-1470. We also have another expert on Israel issues, all issues, Joe Sabag, here in the studio. He's the director. What's your correct title?
The executive director of the Florida region for
Executive
Zionist
director of the
Organization.
Florida region of Zionist Organization of America. He's the big poobah for Zionism in the state of Florida. Does a phenomenal job. We're going to talk a little bit later about what you put together last night with Congressman Louis Gohmert. But 888-565-1470. Batsy, you made you got a question, Mark? Let me establish one point. You made the question that you're the Israel is the I forget what term you used, but the wall, of containment for the West from all the Islamic 22 nations that are around Israel, 330 million Muslims, most of whom hate the West, hate Christians, hate Jews. Tomorrow we'll have in studio our good friend Mark Langfan, who has developed a fascinating domino theory with one of these Arab nations falling. And the next one that's going is Jordan.
It's in the mail.
Jordan's a mess. And, one of these countries fall, and I think we need to start referring to Hamas as the Brotherhood, because this is really a Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah,
this whole thing is
the
an
Hamas
operation.
Brotherhood, Muslim Brotherhood.
Well, we know the Hamas was created and sustained by the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood's running the show now. This is Hamas is a terrorist organization. So should the Brotherhood be. And we've got to move in the United States to designate them as a terrorist. Joe.
Listen, if you follow that line of thinking, then soon enough you'll be referring to Palestinians as Jordanians. So,
yeah, which we could only hope people would do.
Listen.
As in, we already have a two-state solution. It's called Israel and Jordan.
A couple points just to get back to what Batzion was talking about and some of the points that were made. First of all, I want to mention that our good friend Dr. Andy Bostom had a fabulous blog post last night that he put up on his website, where he talked about the role of jihad and Islamic doctrine within Hamas's actions and motivations at this point in time. And so I think it does a lot to clarify for those folks who don't have such an understanding of what's really driving Hamas ideologically. Because frankly, if you look at the type of statements that are emanating from this terrorist group, as far as they're concerned, they're winning. They are fulfilling this duty that they feel that they have religiously, and that God must certainly be pleased with them and their actions, and that, frankly, that they're praiseworthy because they're doing what their Muslim brothers and sisters otherwise may not be doing, and that's carrying out, of course, the doctrine of jihad. So really, a really interesting piece from Dr. Andy Bostom.
Well, it's interesting.
Ahmed Jabari.
Yes.
Ahmed Jabari is the epitome of their jihad, I guess. He was incinerated the other day, right? Wasn't he?
Yes.
Who was Ahmed Jabari again?
Well, this was essentially their minister of defense, so to speak, or offense, perhaps we should put it. But the bottom line is that this was a genocidal terrorist. It was a person who was responsible for the planning and the execution of numerous terrorist attacks against innocent Israeli women and children and civilians. And they finally caught up with him. Now, it's interesting, the video of this extermination, it's online. My understanding is that YouTube actually pulled the video down after the IDF had uploaded it. But if you watch the video, you'll notice that when they struck the man's vehicle and took him out, that the explosion itself was remarkably contained, that there were people standing around 12 to 15 feet away who were not hit with shrapnel, who were not in any way injured by this, and so what we saw was actually a demonstration of a new, very humane form of munitions that Israel has developed, where they're able to very precisely target somebody and make certain that nobody standing around is impacted unless they're incredibly close to the target.
Well, I have a couple of problems with that, and we'll talk about in our analysis of what's going on. But yeah, the missile. It's online if you can find the video. It's 30 seconds under the IDF. If you go to the IDF site, they have it. The missile, you can see the missile coming down after it's fired. It goes right through the roof of the guy's car, just incinerates him. And I did a little post on my Facebook page. I said, and they're all, after this burned out Hulk is just there, all the jihadis are in shock. And I'm going, if indeed they believe their own doctrine, then this is the goal, isn't it? The fifth part of the Brotherhood's motto. Our highest goal is to die in jihad, and he's with a 72-year-old virgin. They didn't get that right. There's not 72 virgins.
72 raisins.
You're with a 72-year-old virgin. Okay, so that's the way it really works. Mark, you had a.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight, what Joe was saying, and what you're iterating right now is, this all stems back. All you have to do is trace out the history, trace out the lineage, and everything that's being talked about goes right back to Hassan al-Banna, right up to, Sayyid Qutb, all the way up to the current-day Muslim Brotherhood ideology, whereas they, going all the way back to the very beginnings, jihad is an obligation. It is a way of life. It is a duty. That's right out of al-Banna's own words. He actually says that jihad is an obligation. You are required by Islam to perform jihad, and that's the reason it's in the motto.
Yeah. Well.
Hey, Batsy, what's the feel like? I mean, how do you in Israel? How do the Israelis learn that somebody like Ahmed Jabari, a very dangerous person, I believe he was involved in the Gilad Shalit kidnapping too? Mm-hmm. How is this news broadcast? Is it
to his murder or to his targeted assassination, which I fully believe in, claimed that he was in the process of reaching some kind of long-term agreement with Israel, which I doubt, honestly. But they say that he was involved in the release of Shalit, which we saw it. We saw him escorting Shalit out of Gaza.
Okay, so now how do you find out that somebody of this magnitude has been killed? Is it tweeted out first, or do you see it on TV? But how does the population learn that a very evil person is now no longer a threat?
Okay, well, we as Israelis are so used to listening to our radios all the time. I mean, I've never seen a nation that every hour, every half an hour, sits there and listens to the news. And we get those news briefs, which, on television, I subscribe to. I can tell you whenever, on my mobile, I subscribe to this application that tells me every time a Qassam falls, every time I get a notification of it. So, that kind of news naturally would just spread like a house on fire. I personally heard it because I was on break from during school, and I got a notification on my Twitter account. So that's how I learned. I'm connected in every possible way to what's happening. So there's a little chance that I will miss anything. Let me put it this way.
Beautiful.
And Israelis are like that, so we just have to be. The other day, I was driving in the car and I was listening to music, and all of a sudden I heard on the radio the siren, and I thought it's probably a service that they give the population how to act in times of siren. And then it was a live one in Tel Aviv, and it turns out that people who are driving may not always, they may have the air conditioner on, or they may not hear. So they try to cover every possible way to make people aware of what's happening in order to keep us alert and to keep us aware. And people literally walk with exposed nerves in Israel, because even if a motorcycle drives by, and sometimes motorcycles have this tendency to create a noise that is very similar to the sound of an alarm, of a siren, and people just, jump And if a window closes by, by chance, people are very nervous. People are, I can see my students. We had a drill to go down to the shelter, and they were acting in the most amazing, disciplined way. But you could see that, it was not just, it was a real exercise. It was not just a drill. And at one time when the siren went off, I was driving the car and I had to get out of the car. I told you a siren went off very close by to where I live. And I didn't take a chance. So I had to get out of the car and lie on the ground. All these things don't add to we still have to maintain our composure. We still have to maintain a normal countenance and continue living. But I can only imagine what's happening in the South. I saw an interview with a mother who had to go shopping, and she couldn't leave her baby at home, naturally. So she took the baby in the car, strapped him into the car seat. Finished, the siren went off. So she had to take him out and then brought him back. She had to do it 3 times. It's not a picnic. And I was with a group of friends in Sderot last summer. We just went there to support the people and show them that we do care. We brought candy for the children. And while we were there were 2 notifications of rockets being fired. Fortunately, they fell elsewhere. But can you imagine people living through that so many times a day? I don't know what it does to you eventually. I'm sure it leaves one big scar on your essence. And I don't think you can ever overcome it.
Yeah. All right, hang on, Batsy. We're going to try to show this Jabari assassination by the IDF.
Tom, while they're loading it up, I want to make mention, let me show this to you here. There's now an app for the smartphones, so that when somebody is in the region where there's an incoming rocket, their smartphone, there is, and well, listen, this is actually a brilliant thing. It notifies them, and then it immediately begins a countdown timer so that they know how far along the timeline of the trajectory they are, so that so that they can hurry up and take cover.
Wow.
I mean, that's a remarkable use of technology.
That is amazing. She has it. Oh, you have it, Batsy? Yeah.
Okay.
That's what you were talking about. Do we have the...
yeah, we have the...
we're going to show Ahmed Jabari, who was the Minister of Offense, Defense, Minister of Killing Jews in Gaza. And when all of this broke out, first of all, everyone has to understand that the Israelis know where everybody is. They know where they live. They know where they eat. They know where all the bad guys are. And they finally said, okay, we got to start knocking these guys off. Watch this situation.
Now, for our listening audience, what we have is the actual missile strike, and they actually have a very targeted strike. He's pulling up to the intersection, as we speak, and boom, there it is. And there's people standing right around it, and it's just really amazing how tight that missile shot is.
It is.
It really is. I mean, that's the amazing part. It's boom. It's
a high impact, low explosive munition that they used to minimize surrounding casualty.
And I'm seeing it now on my monitor here, and boom, the blast was no wider than the road.
It looked like the car actually exploded from inside.
Well, then they have lots of photos of course, they had their typical crowd swarm. I don't know if anybody's ever seen one of these things, but they bring the children over and have the children dip their hands in the terrorist blood. Mr. Jabari's family put out a message as well. They said, in lieu of flowers, please send rockets. So
is that what they said? Really?
No, it's just a bad joke.
What is not really a joke? Because
that brings us also, Joe. I mean, and this is the point I keep making. Okay, here's the news report. All right, think if you heard this news report today. The Israel IDF has launched rockets loaded indiscriminately into the Gaza area with nothing but nuts, bolts, and washers and nails in them, and has launched over 700 into the Gaza border indiscriminately. Wherever they land, they don't care. I mean, what type of outrage would it be if the IDF did that in Gaza? You know, and then it goes to so much great detail to like contain an explosion inside this car.
Well, look, consider the fact that as of several hours ago, Israel had conducted more than 1,000 pinpoint strikes, and I think that the casualties were limited to less than 60. I think that the number was 59. I mean, when you consider that they've now struck 1,000 targets with only about 59 people killed as incidental to that, I mean, that's a remarkable level of accuracy.
Do you know how many? Does anybody here know how many people died in Nagasaki and Hiroshima in the two atomic bombs that we, the United States of America, dropped on Japan?
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, 250,000 people died, and most of them, half of them died on the blast.
Yeah.
And then within a month or two, the rest of them died. 250,000 people, but that initial blast, where about 125,000 died in the two cities, almost didn't break the will of the Japanese during the war. I'm not that sure this pinpoint accuracy versus the bombings of World War II is going to break the spirit of the jihadi. I'm not quite sure that that's going to make sense.
They may be softening up the area. They may be softening up the area before they actually make their way in. Obviously, it would be preferable for them to try and get rid of some of these weapon stockpiles if they do, in fact, launch some kind of a ground invasion. That's just that's logical. That's the same way any war is conducted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's so much attention and concern about collateral damage. I want to really get into that conversation.
Besides the fact that all this pinpointing and all this accuracy, not only does it try to preserve, quote, innocent Palestinian life, but every time they do that, they are putting their own soldiers and their own civilians at greater risk of being killed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's let Batsy go.
Who does that?
Let's let Batsy go, and because we're coming up against a break here in a bit. But Batsy, we want to thank you for your excellent analysis and personal view. You have any? Why don't you take a minute and just share your thoughts with what you would like those listening and watching to do regarding all of you guys over there right now?
All I'm asking really is we post a lot on Facebook, we post a lot on Twitter, basically information to educate the world about what's going on here. Unfortunately, Hollywood is continuing improving itself in a negative sense, of course, and they spread disinformation. They take pictures from other conflicts around the world. Just today we exposed another photo of theirs that they brought from Syria and claimed that it's one of Gaza. And there's a picture where Morsi is kissing the forehead of a dead baby. You remember that famous one? That happened to be a child that died as a result of an accident while someone was trying to launch a rocket. They had the audacity to post a photo of an Israeli baby covered with blood held by a paramedic, and claiming that that is a Palestinian child. Fortunately, the paramedic had the logo of the city that he was representing, Kiryat Malachi, I think it was. Yes, it was Kiryat Malachi. Had the logo of that city on his shirt so he could magnify it and show people, wait a minute, this couldn't be from Palestinian, this couldn't be a Palestinian baby. But these people would stop at nothing to try and spread disinformation. And when I say disinformation, it's not misinformation. It's deliberate misinformation. It's trying to really sway world opinion in on their side. And all I'm asking is that people who get those kinds of photos just keep sharing it, because the truth needs to be shown and needs to be exposed.
Can I ask her something?
Yeah, Batsy, before you go, I want to add to what you just said. What they're looking for is another Al Dura moment that they can carry on for the next 50 years. And the other thing is, if you're looking for something to do to help us help you, put together a list of Israeli companies who sell products that are shipped to the United States and Canada and elsewhere in the world. Let us know what those companies are, what the products are, and we will disseminate that information so when the worldwide boycott against Israel comes, we are ready to fight for the economy of Israel and the well-being financially of the people who are there fighting this war.
And if you talk about it, I just say I'm trying to fight the future goldstones. I'm not saying there will be
Get
a
it in the mic.
future goldstone, a judge, but there will be goldstones. If Israel, especially if Israel goes into the ground invasion, I anticipate a lot of anti-Israeli sentiments, and we just need to prepare the world for the necessity of such an eventuality should it take place.
I'd also, Batsy, this is Tom. If you could send me some names of people in the South that are in the direct line of fire that we can interview through Skype or through the phone, that would be great, okay?
Okay, well, not a problem.
Okay.
And I'll see you and I'll talk to you soon,
Stay
okay?
safe.
Okay,
Keep
bye-bye.
in touch.
Again, we appreciate all your support, help, and love. It means the world to us, okay?
Absolutely. You take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
That's Batsy from the Tel Aviv area. She's becoming a regular, giving us these updates and an insight and analysis. She went to school, I believe, did a master's, I think, in the United States, and has dual citizenship, speaks, like everybody else out there, a whole bunch of languages. And when we were over there, the United West, she sponsored an evening, a meet and greet for us with several Israeli dignitaries, including Tal, the basketball player. Tal.
No, the famous basketball player back in.
He was an Olympic Israeli.
Tall.
Yeah, I don't remember his
And
last
now he's
name.
the ambassador of goodwill for the
Don't
nation.
ask him about
Hey,
sports, I think.
Well, no, I know. He was recruited to the University of Maryland. I just
Yes,
don't
he's a
remember
New
his name.
Jersey guy. He's from Jersey.
Yeah.
What
So-
exit?
Yeah. Princeton. But he was there, and in fact, one of the folks that was there is Barry.
Tall Nadal.
No, Tal something. But you can find in a second. But Barry Shaw was there, a gentleman who we're going to be having on in our third hour, 5 to 6. And he's very involved in getting Israeli news and all that. So we'll have him on, not the next hour. The next hour we have on Jan Suzanne, who I know from the States, but I believe she did Aliyah, living there now. Now you go there and a war's breaking out. So she's going to be reporting back, and she's got a very informative blog. Tal Brody. Okay, Tal Brody. Right. Well, that was very interesting. We're coming down. Any thoughts before we got a minute here before we close?
Yeah, I think that she touched on a number of interesting issues. Israel really needs to decide now what the overall strategic goals are in this situation. Allowing Hamas to live to fight another day and to rearm. Whose purposes do a ceasefire serve? I would argue that it serves the purposes of Iran and the Muslim Brotherhood. Israel needs to decide upon, in my opinion, a policy of peace through strength. You spoke about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I spoke last night a bit about Hamburg and Dresden. The point of those strikes was not to make people suffer. The point was to end the enemy's capacity to engage in warfare, to essentially force them into submission without any conditions whatsoever, and then to normalize with the fact that they lost and circumstances moving forward are going to demand peace. That's the way it works, and so I would say that although many people had to suffer in those situations, morally, the morality of those situations was very clear. Israel's duty is to protect its own citizens, to provide them with safe and normal lives, and that means defeating the enemy and not simply just kicking the can down the road.
And I want to carry that thought, because This is going to be a significant and serious discussion. What
Yeah.
level of military capability is too much, and
Right.
already people are saying it's too much. But we're going to have to carry that over. We'll be back in a little bit. This is Tom Trento on TrentoVision.tv and on WNN 1470. And Joe's there. Does he remember how to get us out of here? What do you think? No?
No, he
Here we
forgot.
go. Push that red button, Joe.
All right.
Okay.